Peace, family. I just wanted to come to you very briefly and talk about the SNL skit that was done about slave breeding. Now, I don't normally even watch television. I'm not one that I go weeks without watching television. But I heard about this on my way work. I heard about it on my way to work on the radio, and so I went home and looked at it, and I'll be honest, I was sincerely troubled by it because I looked at the pain that sister was in when she talked about beauty, and the standard of beauty that so many of our sisters try to fit into and simply cannot. A white standard of beauty. And many of our sisters experience that pain. And just the psychological damage that we have experienced, our sisters in particular have experienced, it hurts my heart. But what I also found troubling was the attempt to try to talk about something and at the same time try to make it funny. When she was talking about slave breeding, I'm of the particular belief that that's nothing to even it's nothing to even be joked about. Slavery in general shouldn't be joked about. I honestly don't want to see it, and a lot of times I don't find it appropriate oftentimes when it's on the screen and when they're not trying to mock the experience. The objectification of women in particular, I find extremely troubling. And it's not just this SNL skit. I mean, again, I don't watch TV, but working with young people, I know what's out there. When you talk about hip hop and the objectification of women, even when it's flipped and supposed to be the empowerment of women, it still becomes the objectification of the black woman. You look at a program like Scandal, where you have a woman who is supposed to be powerful and a modern woman, a black woman, beautiful woman according to today's standards. But in actuality, it's almost as if she's in the same position as what a woman would be back in slavery, which was a modern bed wench, is what she's portraying. I hate to say it like that, but I say it how I see it. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that we could sit and joke about slave breeding and what our sisters went through. And I'll be honest, people have been saying, oh, they're coming from a position that's not politically correct, but in actuality, there should be righteous indignation about what was said. I'm wondering myself, where was the person who was going to say, you know what, this is not a good idea? Where was that person at? And the skit, regardless of the intent, came across as coonery. It really did. It really did. And I'm going to just read some things. I'm going to just read what was said in case you didn't see it. And we're going to point out some things. We're going to read some other things. On the skit, it's a sister on there, and she's with I guess a white reporter. Again, I don't watch SNL, but it looked like they were just doing like a news skit. And she said, the way we value black beauty has changed. I'm single now, but back in the slave days, I would have never been single. I'm 6 feet tall and I'm strong. Look at me, I'm a mandingo, she said. Now, what she's saying has some truth to it. When she talks about the standard of beauty, our sisters are beautiful. Black women are beautiful. But because of white supremacy and the standard of white beauty that has been bestowed upon them, it's like a little box. You're a circle and it's a big circle. And it's a little box you're trying to fit into that you'll never fit in. Right? And so now we have sisters who, when you ask them about their hair, why don't you wear your hair? If you ask a lot of sisters, not all sisters, but you ask someone, why don't you wear your hair natural? Well, it's not manageable. Well, my question is, what were we doing before relaxers? What were our sisters doing before relaxers? You know, why do you put weave in your hair? Well, I want my hair to be full. Well, my question is, why are you putting somebody else's hair in your hair, a texture that is not yours? And why is your hair blonde? You see, so there is, and a lot of times we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with that. That white standard of beauty. Our sisters, even us as a people, you tell somebody that Jesus was a black man, the Messiah was black. Black people will tell you that he was white or that he was all colors, something that could not possibly be, historically or biblically. If we read, just let me read it, in Revelation 1, just for an example, Revelation 1 and verse 14, talking about the Messiah, it says, his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes was a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Okay? So, his skin looked like it had been burned in an oven. That's a black man. We know Moses. We know Joseph. We know the Apostle Paul were all mistaken for Egyptians. The ancient Egyptians were black people, as was the Israelites, as was Jesus. But we can't even conceptualize that because in this country, during slavery, we were given a slave version, a slave religion, and we were given a white Christ by a white slave owner. And that cycle has never been broken. It's perpetual. And we still believe, many of us, when we close our eyes and think of the Messiah, we see a white man with blonde hair and blue eyes, which again, cannot possibly be the case. You think about the study that was done with the young children. And they was presented a white doll and a black doll, and the only difference was the color. And they asked the black child, which doll is pretty? Which doll is smart? Which doll do you want to be a friend? These are little babies, 5, 4 years old. The one that they thought was beautiful and smart and friendly was the white doll. Which one is not smart? Which one is ugly? And they picked the doll that looked just like them. So the psychological damage from white supremacy, the psychological damage of slavery and Jim Crow, all these hundreds of years of subjugation are still with us. So when the sister says the way we value black beauty has changed, yes and no. Because people are talking about the sister in 12 Years a Slave, but quite frankly, for most sisters, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. Even the depiction with her, don't get me wrong, tremendous actress, but the depiction of what happened, the objectification of her body, I just find it troubling. I just find it troubling to even show on the screen the sacredness of a black woman's womb just to being desecrated like it was. I find it truly troubling. So the sister said, the way we value black beauty has changed. I'm single now, but back in the slave days, I would have never been single. I'm 6 feet tall and I'm strong. Look at me, I'm a mandingo. Okay, now there's some truth to what she's saying about slave breeding and what went on, right? Let me just read some things. This is from a book called Killing Black Innocence, the program to control African American reproduction from slavery slavery's end to the present day self-inflicted genocide. In chapter 1, it talks about slave breeding and stock men. I'm going to just read something here. It says about a man, about a particular man. It says, when I was young, they took care not to strain me. This was Jephthah Choice. This was a man that was a stock man. Okay, a slave that was a stock man, and he's talking about this after slavery. It's in a narrative, and he was a stock man, meaning he was a man that was whole purpose was to breed. So he said, when I was young, they took care not to strain me, and I was as handsome as a speckled pup, and was in demand for breeding. Okay. It says L.G. Davidson. who also fulfilled the role of stud, stated that his master required him to take 15 wives and father children. Davidson was unsure of the exact number of children that he fathered, but he was certain that the number exceeded 100. Okay? So we can look at that and say, man, there was breeding going on. But who bore the brunt, even in this? Who bore the brunt of it? Yes, we as a people who are descendants of slaves, we bore it as a people. But look at what the women had to endure childbirth. The woman had to endure sexual advances that were unwanted. This is from another slave narrative. It's Louisa Noor Everett. So she recalls the way her husband was chosen for her. And her husband was chosen for her because it was felt that those two, her and the other male slave, would bring forth strong children. Okay? So this is what happened. She said, Jim, that's Master Jim, called me and Sam to him and ordered Sam to pull off his shirt. That was all the McLean ends wore, and said to me, Noor, do you think you can stand this big end? He had that old bullwhip flung across his shoulder. So she was forced to breed, literally, have sex with a man while the master is there with a bullwhip. See, this is what our ancestors went through, right? When you really think about it, the only reason you hear is because of God and the strength, the sacrifice, and the labor of a woman. And to even laugh at that, even to make it a joke, even if you were trying to make a point through comedy, it's not even appropriate. She said, he had that old bullwhip flung across his shoulder, and Lord, that man could hit so hard. So I just said, yes, sir, I guess so. And tried to hide my face so I couldn't see Sam's nakedness, but he made me look at him anyhow. Well, he told us what we must get busy and do in his presence, and we had to do it. After that, we was considered man and wife. Me and Sam was a healthy pair and had fine, big babies, so I never had another man forced on me. Forced into that subjugation. You see. See, if you want to make a point, there's many other ways you can make it. But doing a skit like that was totally inappropriate. And to hit a laughter, the studio audience, to hit a man, I'm still trying to find where was the person that was to say, you know what, this is not okay. This is not appropriate. This is not appropriate. This is another account of female slaves and what they did have to go through. Nehemiah Calkins, this is on page 5 of this book, Nehemiah Calkins tells the following account concerning an owner's fury over his female slaves' failure to multiply. One day the owner ordered the women into the barn. He then went in among them, whip in hand, and told them he went to flog them all to death. They began immediately to cry out, "What have I done, master?" He replied, "Damn you. I will let you know what you have done. You don't breed. I haven't had a young one from you for several months." Okay? So this is what was going on. This is what was going on. Even in their magazines, they talked about how it was best to breed. The American cotton planter suggested that women with children be well treated and cared for and moderately worked. Their natural increase becomes a source of great profit to their owners. See, total objectification of the black female body. Again, and it has continued even until this day with the videos that we see, with the movies that we see. See, one problem that we have as a people is we do not control our image. I'll say it again. We do not control our image. Other people control our image. And it's very easy to find people from any ethnic group to sell out the larger group. Through money, through ignorance, through both. See, and that's what's happened to us. You have people who will do things for a certain amount of money, and try to deny the fact or just totally ignorant of the fact that their negative depiction impacts all of us. And because we don't control our image, other people can put an image out of us that makes us all criminals, that makes us, our women, all whores, that makes us all have a lack of intelligence when we know that is not the case. Right? We know that's, I'm speaking almost absolutes, but we know that's not the case, but too many of us are portrayed in this way. Right? But one thing we can do until we come into power is to call people who are detrimental to us, call them what they are, detrimental, and not support them. Why are we supporting people that are having a negative impact on us? We should not support these people. They should be alone, stranded on an island, if you will, in obscurity, in isolation, until they are ready to take responsibility, until they are ready to be held accountable. And that goes in all areas, where we're talking about religion, whether we're talking about in the movies, whether we're talking about in music, whether we're talking about in politics. We have too many people that are detrimental, and yet we continue to back these people. We continue to support these people that have done much damage. They have done much damage. This is another part of this book where it talks about rape. It says black female slaves were considered to be mere property and had little power to prevent the sexual advances of white male slave owners. The legal system did not protect the bondwoman from sexual assault. Thus, masters were able to commit heinous sexual acts with impunity. Slave children were also susceptible to rape by slave masters. Children. Linda Brent describes the experience of slave girls as follows. So, the sister in the SNL skit, when she's talking about, yeah, I was considered a mandingo, or I was big, I would have been ready for breeding. Yeah, you might have been ready for breeding at 14 years old. Linda Brent described the experience of slave girls as follows. When she is 14 or 15, her owner or his sons or the overseer or perhaps all of them begin to bribe her with presents. If these fail to accomplish their purpose, she is whipped or starved into submission to their will. See, this is what we experienced. And it's in much of our literature. Here, I just wanted to read something from Zora Neale Hurston's Their Eyes Were Watching God. Something that was put in the mouth of, if you're familiar with the story, it's mainly about a woman and her quest to find herself, to find love, if you will. But her grandmother was a slave, and she talked about something. I just want to read something she said about women that I believe is so true. Because when we talk about slavery and subjugation and exploitation, see, women bore the brunt of it. Women bore the brunt of it. It's just like Patsy in 12 Years a Slave, who picked 500 pounds of cotton and then had the master, like a beast, lay on her. She said something. She said that I felt it had a lot of truth to it. She said, maybe it's someplace way off in the ocean, and it's in dialect, so I'm not going to read the dialect. She said, maybe it's someplace way off in the ocean where the black man is in power, but we don't know anything or nothing but what we see. So the white man throws down the load and tell the end man, I'm not saying the N word, to pick it up. He picks it up because he has to. But he doesn't tote it. He hands it to his women folks. So labor, struggle. Black men can't say that they struggled and labored more than black women, because it would not be true. She said the end woman is the mule of the world so far as, she said, as I can see. She said, I've been praying for it to be different with you, talking about her granddaughter. See, our women have carried the brunt. They continue to carry the load. When you think about our families, our black families, who is carrying the load? It's not the men. The men aren't there. Again, I'm not saying absolutely or all black men. You have many black fathers who are there. I happen to be one. I'm talking about who's carrying the load. The woman is carrying the load. And not only does she have to carry that load of the family, now she has to be objectified constantly. Now she has to try to fit into a standard of beauty that she should never have to fit into. She has her own beauty. In my opinion, that surpasses the beauty of other people. Everybody has their type of beauty. But nobody can tell me that the women that look like my mothers, my aunt, my grandmother, my great-grandmother are more beautiful than they are. That are stronger than they are. Because I simply don't believe it. I simply do not believe it. And yet all this burden is laid on them without the support of many of our brothers who have simply continued the objectification. And part of it is white supremacy. But they've continued the objectification, or they've gone to other women. See, black women don't even have the I won't even call it a luxury, but an option. Because it's not a luxury, an option of going to other people. Yes, I'm not saying they're not interracial relationships and marriages, but what I'm saying is that for the most part, black women, first of all, many black women want to be with black men. It's black men that will go and find women of other races. It's black men who will do that more so than black women. Statistics tell us this. And as far as marriage, black women are far less likely to marry outside their race or be married. So, you know, these are issues. In this skit, she says, I do not want to be a slave. I don't like working for all you white people now, and you pay me. So that's supposed to be a joke there. But back in the slave days, my love life would have been better. Now, even to say that, my love life, what I just read to you about the rape of black women and the forced breeding of black, that's not love. That's not a love life. There's no love involved. It's total exploitation and objectification. It is nothing that we should joke about. See, this goes beyond poor taste. It's nothing that you could joke about. It's not funny. No matter how you slice it, it's not funny. She said, I do not want to be a slave. I don't like working for all you white people now, and you pay me. But back in the slave days, my love life would have been better. Master would have hooked me up with the best brother on the plantation. So we read about the forced breeding. We read about, see, this did take place. And understand, there's been no retribution, no reparation. You see, for this systematic destruction of a people. The only reason we exist is because of the Most High God. That we continue to exist. Because other people would have been destroyed totally. And that has happened to other peoples when you look at European domination. When you look at what they call the Tasmanian people. Those people, the indigenous peoples to that part of the world, were wiped out completely. When you look at the Arawak, that were in Hispaniola, where Columbus came, wiped out. Wiped out. Systematic destruction. But back in the slave days, my love life would have been better. Master would have hooked me up with the best brother on the plantation. And every 9 months, I'd be in the corner popping out super babies. Right? I just keep popping them out. Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, Kimbo Slice, Sinbad. I would be the #1 slave draft. All the plantations would want me. Now there is some truth to what she's saying as far as the desire for women who were breeding, who could breed, who they felt would be a good fit to bring forth children that would be big and strong. The issue is the fact that it's on TV and people are laughing about it. The fact that it's on TV and black people are not in an uproar about it is really what concerns me, because I don't expect anything else from other people, to be quite frank. But what surprises me to a degree is how we have lost our minds. It's how we have lost our minds. And we need to get back on the right way, on the right path. Let me read something to you in the scriptures. Because this was written of in scripture, that this will happen to God's chosen people. And regardless of what you believe and what you've been taught, black so-called African Americans are the chosen people of God that the Bible is actually talking about. Okay? So I just want to read something to you. This is Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. It says, "Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her." Right? Another man shall lie with her. This is what happened during slavery. A man be engaged or take a wife, and the master would sleep with her. A lot of times, right in front of him. That's also in this book. That's also in this book, Killing Black Innocents. That the slave master and his friends or whoever would come, and they would make the husband look on as he defiled his wife. So it said, "Thou shalt betroth the wife, and another man shall lie with her. Thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shalt not gather the grapes thereof." That's what happened to us, right? We built a house, we built a country. That one sister again, and passing in 12 years a slave, picking all that cotton, making all that money for that plantation owner, bearing the brunt, being the mule of the world. And what? Got nothing for it. Not only the black men, we often think of men and what they suffered. Nobody suffered like black women. And it's time somebody started speaking out and protecting the black woman. Not saying the black woman is not strong. Not saying the black woman can't protect herself. But there's supposed to be some balance there. There's supposed to be some support there. There's supposed to be some protection there. Even for the sister who made who did the skit. Because that sister is in some pain. She's in some pain. Because that was born out of her rejection by black men. Black men have rejected her. They rejected her. Largely because, why? Because of her black features. Because of her black features. Because of her blackness, black men have rejected her. Right? So that was born out of some pain. Even to put that on the screen like she did. It's still inappropriate though. It's inappropriate. I just want to read something else, because she was talking about the kids. And how she be popping them out every 9 months. I want to read something that Sojourner Truth said about children. This is in an address she gave at a women's convention. I believe it was in, let me find it. Let me find it real quick. It was in 1851 at a women's convention in Akron, Ohio. You know, that famous, one of my favorite speeches, "Ain't I a Woman?" She said, I can imagine her pointing to some man after something he said. She said, "That man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere." Right? So all that was said to basically deny them the rights that they should have. He said, nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. See, the black woman is the mule of the earth. Even until this day, women in general, from subjugated, colonized, enslaved peoples, bear the brunt. We just had in Nigeria 200 girls kidnapped and a madman talking about he's going to sell them into slavery. You know, certain things are an act of war. Certain things are an act of war. But she goes on to say, and you need to respond accordingly to that. That's not acceptable. She said that man over there says that women need to be helped into carriages and lifted over ditches and to have the best place everywhere. Nobody ever helps me into carriages or over mud puddles or gives me any best place. And ain't I a woman? Right? She says, look at me. Look at my arm. I have plowed and planted the mule of the earth and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. No man could be over me. She says, and ain't I a woman? I could work as much and eat as much as any man. Just like the sister Patsy, 12 years a slave, picking all that cotton. I was picking the men, right? When I could get it. She says, I can eat as much as a man when I can get it, and bear the lash as well. And ain't I a woman? I have borne 13 children. So now the sister talked about on SNL, she talked about how, yeah, she would have been popping out babies. But what would have probably been happening, or could have been happening to those children? Sojourner Truth said, I have borne 13 children. See? Somebody, some woman, somewhere, whoever you are, labored, sacrificed for you. Was strong for you to even exist. She said, I have borne 13 children and seen most all off to slavery. Right? When you think about your beloved, your sister killed her children so they wouldn't endure slavery, be sold, or they hadn't have to endure it. She said she saw her children sold off into slavery. And when I cried out with my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. An AI woman. Nobody has suffered like the black woman. And it is time for the end of her objectification. Black men should not stand for the objectification, further objectification of black women. Yes, we don't have media outlets to control our image, but what we do have is our own support. We can start there. We can stop supporting people, black, white, green, or yellow, whatever your color. We should not support people who objectify the black women. Furthermore, we should hold accountable people in quote-unquote positions of power that is no power. Those blacks that have been put in media outlets to speak for the black masses. Those blacks who are in pulpits supposedly